it is. Why does it seem dark? Oh, there, it brightened up. Hello, knitters. Oh, I'm kind of off center. My camera's in a different space now, so we'll talk about it. There were some technological issues. Hello, knitters. Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. And that's all the spiel I'm going to do. I try my best every week, the last Thursday of the last Thursday of every month, to do a Ask Me Anything fiber knitting related live, which is what we're doing right here. We have varying levels of participation, but if one person shows up to chat with me or 20 people show up to chat with me, I'm going to try my best to be here because it's a lot of fun. I love answering questions, but also I love learning from the people in the chat bar because they always have info that I don't have. So if you came here with a question, I definitely want to hear it. If not, we'll try to figure out other things to chat about. Karen is mentioned in the thing that she is going to a Halloween thing, which totally understand. And I really, typically I would have avoided to doing something this close to a holiday, but I missed last month. So I definitely wanted to do this month. And I know Tracy is out there hanging out from Kansas, and we've got Desiree from Virginia. Yes, Desiree, I am doing the lives. I've been working on getting them since I moved. And you know what? The lives are really the only thing I didn't really stop doing when I was really shifting into high gear of getting my house hold ready to move. I think I'm going to look over at my dashboard. I can look at the dates. So the last real video I posted was in February 6th of this year. And then my first video here in Seattle, which was Knitter Moved to Seattle vlog, was on August 17th. So I did take a substantial chunk of time, but I tried to hit lives. There are only a couple that I missed, only a couple months I missed, because it was when I was actively in the process of driving 5 days across country and unpacking my house, and my computer wasn't set up. And I missed last month because my family, my mother, my sister, and my nephew actually came out to help my husband and I celebrate our birthdays, because we both have birthdays in September. So that's why we missed last month, because they were in town and I didn't want to be like, peace out, man, I'm going to go do a live. Although it would have been fun to. I wanted to honor the fact that they had come all the way out here to see me. My mother from South Carolina and my sister and her son from Arizona. So one of them not so far as the other, but they both came out. And so that's why I took last month off. So I didn't want to take this month off, even though I know a lot of people have Halloween-y related things, and we're probably not going to have a large group of people in here, but I'm excited that any of you are here. Hello, Everyday Girl in Massachusetts. And Tina, welcome. Oh, you're in Las Vegas. Las Vegas isn't that far from here. I mean, it is, but relative to Florida, I'm much closer, I believe. Oh, you meant since I have made the move. I've done a couple. I think I've been trying. Change is hard. I did May, and then I missed June and July. I did August, missed September. Now we're in October, and hopefully I will not be missing any more for quite some time. We will not be traveling for the holidays, for Thanksgiving, we don't really celebrate Thanksgiving, but for the Turkey Day area or for the winter solstice holidays. We won't be traveling because we have pretty much blown the budget on traveling in moving. So we're going to take some time to rebuild our coffers. I don't know if that's too antiquated to say, but it's going to take a little while before we start actually going anywhere. So we're going to see what the holidays here in Seattle are like. Um, so Mila, hey Mila, I'm glad that you were able to catch us. So the big move, there is actually, I did a video talking. There's somebody late. Somebody's very unhappy. I think it's possible that someone outside thinks someone else is maybe driving too slow. Because they're just laying on the horn, which is ridiculous. Okay, here is the video. There we go. That's the video where I talked a lot about the move. But the move went well. It went smoothly. We rented the condo we're living in just by looking at pictures on the internet. And I had a lot of concerns. Like, I didn't know how that was going to go. I mean, I did my very best to do due diligence and try to do the best research I could. And we had come out, my son and I had come out between Christmas and New Year's, the prior to us moving, to really get a good look at all the different neighborhoods and get an idea of what area we would want to live in. And having been here for a few months now, I really am happy with the choices we made. I really like where we are living, as far as the vibe of it and how it is. And the condo turned out to be so much more than I could have ever hoped for, in terms of we are actually on the lake. Like, I mean, we've got like a road in front of us and then a park and then the lake, but I can see the lake out my windows, and I sometimes just sit on my chaise and stare out the window and look at the birds and be amazed that I have this beautiful thing to look at. So yeah, we're pretty happy. There's been some parking issues, but getting adjusted from living in a single family home with your own garage and your own driveway and everything, and living in a more communal living kind of situation. My son has never had to deal with that before. So that is something we're working on. And, it's hard for us to, I mean, it's been like 28 years since either my spouse or I have lived in this kind of arrangement. So it takes adjustment, but it's going great. It's going great. Okay, let's see where we are. Diane, you're in Seattle? Hello! We need to go to a yarn store together. That would be awesome. I need to get to other yarn stores. I've been to Hazel Knits. I've been to the New Knittery. I've been to Maker's Mercantile, and I've been to one that was out towards Issaquah, but I can't remember the name of it, but it was cool. And I've been to one in downtown Bellevue. So I've been to a few. I need to get to more, and I need to video them for you. But Diane, if you want to go to a yarn store or hit a couple of them, make our own little baby crawl, that would be a ton of fun. That would be awesome. I promise. I was going to say, I promise I'm not weirdo, but I am kind of a weirdo. But you've watched me on these videos, so you know exactly what kind of weirdo I am. So it's just what you see is what you get. Who I am on these videos is very, very accurate to who I am in real life, except for it does, I'm a little bit of an introvert. Believe it or not, I'm a bit of an introvert. So it takes a little while for me to warm up to people. But once I do warm up to people, this is pretty much me. The only big difference is in person, there's more cussing, because YouTube will not show people your videos if you cuss in it. So I don't do that on video. But otherwise, this is pretty good. This is pretty much it. Tracy, okay, beginner weaving, we'll take a moment. Hello, proper lady. I am doing great tonight. We've had some fun stuff today that I'll talk to. You're in Tacoma. Hello, Kelly, in Tacoma. Also cool. I'm totally happy to go down. I want to go to Tacoma more. 2 years ago, when I brought my family out to try to start getting the idea of moving here, we actually checked out both Tacoma and Seattle to decide where we wanted to be. We rented an Airbnb in Federal Way. So we spent half our time in Seattle and half our time in Tacoma. We went to the the Defiance Point Zoo and saw the funniest puffins on the face of the earth. It was absolutely a delight. We went to the car museum because my son loves cars. So I really enjoyed Tacoma. We went over the Weird Bridge and went to Gig Harbor. I want to go to the Olympic National Park and like just check it out because I heard it's really really cool. So I'm all up for traveling the whole area. I have places bookmarked that I want to go to in Portland. So I was thinking about there's apparently a train that you can take from Seattle to Portland, which I think it would be super exciting. Um, do 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 do. So okay, so this your handle goes together a lot, so I don't know where to chop it to try to address you because it could be Milagro Nieves or it could be Mila Gronevie. I don't know where the Gron part goes in your name, but I'm gonna say Mila for now. I actually don't have knitting friends yet. I'm working on it, but it's really hard to make friends when you are a, you know, extra adult. Like you're beyond. I mean, most of the time when you make friends, especially as an adult, and if you have children, but you know, if you're lucky and you're child free, not so much. But if you have children, you end up making friends with the parents of your children. But again, that normally only happens in like elementary and middle school. Once you hit the point where you're in high school, um, you just drop the kid off and they do their thing. And so you don't really meet those people much at all. So once you're post child rearing, um, and you're in your 50s, it's very difficult to make friends because there's just really very, especially if you don't work outside the house, there's very little context where you will like interact with people to an extent that you would form friendships. So, you know, it's on my list of things to do. I want to make friends, which is why I was saying to, what was it, Denise? I think it's Denise. Um, darn it, where to go? Well, any of the people who have mentioned being in the Pacific Northwest, I'm like, yeah, yeah, Diane, let's do this thing. I am open to. I have started going to one yarn store and have gotten to know some people, and I really, really enjoy their company. But it's very much it happens for the 2 hours that we're at this store, and that's it. I haven't reached that jumping over the point where you're actually doing things in an unrelated environment. But it'll get there. I've only been here since July. This stuff takes time. Um, I will hope to have a lot of knitting friends in the near future. Um, the Nifty Knitter, Kelly, is the Nifty Knitter up? It's not in Issaquah. So a couple weekends when my mom and sister were visiting, we went up to Issaquah to go see the salmon hatchery thingamajigger they got going on. And then we went to a small town near it. And that's where, and it was this big, like 1980s style wooden walkway shops. And I think maybe, yeah, the Nifty Knitter is what it was called. Beautiful yarn, but a high end store. It is definitely one of those stores that you go for luxury yarn, as opposed to ones that carry more workhorse style. Yeah, I mean, but different. And I think that's what's probably what I'm going to have to find. What I will find here is that it takes like when you have a lot of stores in a populated area, the stores are going to be less generalist and more niche about what they offer, so they make themselves distinct so that people will go out of their way to go to the store, as opposed to Sarasota where there was one yarn store to go to, just the one. So we carried a huge range of stuff, so it just depends. So I think it's going to be interesting. You have relatives in Portland. I want to go there. I did not visit the yarn shop in Gig Harbor. I didn't know there was a yarn shop in Gig Harbor. If I go there again, we again, that was when it was like my mother, my son, my husband, and I. So we did not we didn't find that. We just went down to like the harbor part, and we ended up going through this really cool, like a museum about the fishing industry there. And it was really cool, and went on old boats, and it was cool. We just wandered around. Mila is fine. Okay, thank you. I just couldn't, because there's no spaces or punctuation in these avatar names. It's like the name just keeps going. That would be fantastic, Kelly. I would love that. Yes, again, yeah, Tracy. I'm to keep myself. I've only been here a few months, and it's rough. And not only am I only here a few months, like right now we're heading into the holiday season, which is really for people people really get very busy with the friends they already have, and things probably, hopefully, in the new year things will start getting interesting. Okay, so the nifty knitter. Kelly, so kidnapping implies that it would be involuntary. And I can tell you right now, I'll have like bags. I'll be like, let's do this thing. Okay, you and I in a word I cannot pronounce. Chahalis? I'm getting better with all of the indigenous names here. Like I can say Puyallup and Snohomish. I'm working on them. Enumclaw. They're tough because there are a lot. This was really interesting. There is a lot of indigenous names used in the Florida. In Florida, it's all over the place, but they're very different languages. I mean, they're multiple different tribal languages, but they're very, very different from the way that the ones up here sound. Like, and I'm sure that people who moved to Florida and look at the indigenous names that we have for a lot of our cities and areas and landmarks, they are totally baffled with pronunciation, I'm sure. Because it's things like Okefenokee and Okeechobee and Homosassa, and well, Wikiwachi is fairly straightforward, but how you pronounce them is very, very different. Someone once said, it was funny, it was a thing, and they were talking about how they thought it was ridiculous that Florida didn't honor indigenous languages, and that there were no indigenously named things in Florida. And I was just like, I was listening, I was watching, it was like a TikTok or something. I was watching, I'm like, excuse me? Excuse me, what? What do you mean there's no indigenous named things in Florida? I mean, have you heard of Miami? I mean, just because it doesn't, and it turns out that this person who was criticizing it was from Arizona, and they're used to the sound of Navajo names. And I'm like, just because it doesn't sound like the indigenous languages that you're used to hearing doesn't mean it's not an indigenous language. Miami is an indigenous name. Seminole, indigenous name. It's just like, I don't know. I got really ragey about that. But Puyallup has been giving me problems. Okay. Port Townsend is a great weekend visit. Bizarre Girls. It looks like Sequim, which I'm gonna guess is probably wrong pronunciation wise, because I'm just looking at it and you saying it's rough. But I'm gonna put, and all y'all can have this. That, if you dig into my channel, you can find that on this channel anyway, but I'm just making it easy. Y'all who might want to do knitting stuff in this area, if you're looking for a new knitting friend, please feel free to send out an email and maybe we can figure something out. So we need to go back to the question. We have an actual fiber related question about weaving. And so the thing is, oh, Harley, I didn't see you. Hey, Harley. These things scroll by super fast sometimes. So one thing to think about when it comes to weaving is that there's all different kinds of weaving. When we think of weaving, you immediately go to either the giant floor looms or the smaller tabletop looms that you see people weaving on. and there's all different kinds. And before you spend and the bigger looms are expensive. It's kind of like, if you want to get into spinning, do you need to go out immediately and drop $600 on a wheel? Or maybe do you want to consider a drop spindle first? The problem being that spinning on a wheel and spinning on a drop spindle are two very, very different things. And you may or may not. Like, you may love spinning on a wheel and hate spindle, and vice versa. So it's not necessarily a substitute. Um, Gizlet, I am really not sure what you're asking me. Um, I wonder if you have any knowledge of aids for physically challenged people who want to get back to knitting. Rheumatoid arthritis caused my right hand to be numb and swollen. Um, I don't know a lot. I do know that there are more needles like the Addy Rocket Squared. I'll come back to weaving. The Addy Rocket Squared and things like that that are supposed to be kinder to people's hands and reduce repetitive strain injury. But I don't know anything. I don't know of any specific aids. It's just not something. Um, I am privileged enough to not have had to worry about this kind of thing, and I acknowledge that privilege. So it's not something I know anything about. I'm afraid. I would like to help you, but it's just not. I do know that the square needles, the rocket square needles are supposed to be less, but I know rheumatoid arthritis is an incredibly debilitating thing, and I don't know how. I don't know if those square needles are good for people who are more in the beginning stages of that than than stages that they have progressed through. I'm sorry. Um, I have worn gloves. There are some tight, like compression gloves. And when I was having a lot of problems with my thumb, I would wear compression gloves. And those do help with support somewhat. Most of the time, when people are talking about dealing with this sort of thing, they talk more about stretches and things like that. But I don't know how that dovetails with rheumatoid arthritis, which is a really serious condition. Um, and I just ordered the compression gloves the off of Amazon and wore them for a while to try to help. And honestly, I had to stop knitting for a while, so it was resting it. Desiree, you have not used your Schnack loom that yet. Wasting all the yarn after cutting the yarn off the loom. What do you do with it? You could probably make like tassels or pom-poms, or depending on what style of knitting you like, you could tie it, like use that magic knot situation and leave long end and like tie it back together, leaving long ends, and just tie them as you run out, tie it, and then like maybe make a cowl or something that'll have all these fun tassels dangling off of it. They used to make they called it crazy ball or something. I actually, and it was really fun. In one of my knitting guilds, the Atlanta Knitting Guild, one thing we did is we had a crazy ball workshop where everybody brought yarn and they cut it into specific lengths, and everybody sat at the table and put a pile of the yarn they brought. And so what you did is you sat there and you pulled out one strand and you tied it and you wound it hand into a ball, you pulled out another strand, and you took strands from everybody at your table. And then when the time was up and you've done a lot of that, you moved to the next table and you started working on their yarns. And everyone left the event with like a ball of yarn that they had tied together. And then you can just like do a garter stitch scarf with it or something. And it makes one of those crazy art yarn kind of situations, which are really expensive yarns if you've ever seen them. They're beautiful, but you have to like that style of kind of bohemian look kind of situation. But if it's all one yarn, again, you could just tie it together and knit it and leave the dangly bits and just call it a feature. That, or I would keep it all stuffed in like a Ziploc bag. And the next time I made a stuffed animal or something that needed stuffing, I would just stuff it all in it. And then no one would know that I did it. I actually have, let me see if I can access it easily. This is not really easy. There are flip-flops on it. Get out of here. Okay. I got this, Jobby. This is a Cricut loom. And the yarn store I used to work at had a lot of weavers because we had one employee who was incredibly passionate about, like, she wove. She knitted occasionally, but weaving was her thing. And this is, it's called a Cricut loom. It's very similar to the schnack that she was talking about. And so I got real excited about it. And the idea was awesome. And so I bought the loom and I have the stand. This you can work on the tabletop, or I have the stand for it. And part of purchasing the yarn at that store, purchasing the loom at the store, is you got a free class of Laura teaching you how to warp the loom to get the yarn on the loom. And she helped me warp it. And I wove something. And that was it. Like, literally, that was it. Because what I learned by that process was I hate warping looms. If you think you don't like swatching because you want to get to the project, you're going to hate warping a loom. Well, you might not, but it's the same thing. It takes a long time to warp a loom, and it takes precision to warp a loom. And it's all this work you have to do. It's as if casting on for your project took 4 hours. Okay, that's what warping a loom is, and depending on the size of the loom and the intricacy of what you're doing. So I learned the hard way, and I still have the loom, and it wasn't cheap. I will probably, hopefully, figure out once I have friends who I might be able to foist it off on, because I would love for someone to actually weave with it. So if you want to learn how to weave, I might encourage you to find someone who has one of these types of looms and help them in the warping process, and find out if you could, if this is something you would want to reliably do, i.e. warping a loom. Because I enjoyed the weaving. The actual weaving part, I thoroughly enjoyed. And then once I finished with it, the idea of trying to warp the loom again, no, was not on the list of anything I was going to do. Now, as I was trying to say, there's all different kinds of weaving earlier. And let me move a couple of things. Oh, no, it's right here. I have to move the dock. I think this is where I have them. I think so. So, for many years, my tangent time. For many years, my mother had a good friend who, you know how there's like Pampered Chef and those kind of sales things? She sold Longaberger baskets. Now, this is a very Midwestern thing. Specifically, we were in Indiana. And they are very, very well known. And they're very well made baskets. And every year they put out a holiday basket. And every year, my mom, for many, many moons, um, my mom would buy, and that was just a standard thing that was under the Christmas tree for me. This one is 2003, right? This one's got a pretty wood top on it. And when we moved from Atlanta, and I used to have them all, I had a very, very large window that had like one of those wooden boxes on the top that the curtains hung out of. And I had all of the holiday Longabergers arranged across the top, and they were just on display. And when we moved to Florida, we didn't have as much space, and they really weren't appropriate for decor. Like they're just too, um, they're not Florida-y, they're not beachy. And I came to the realization as we were moving in, I was like, okay, I need to go to the Container Store and I need to get this container and that container because we needed containers to like go in drawers, to go under things. And then found one of the boxes and I realized, you know what? You know what baskets are for? Baskets are for to put things in. So I was like, who cares that they're like $200 baskets? I'm just going to put stuff in them. So now there's a Longaberger that's in the bathroom that holds my son's like toiletries. And there's one in my kitchen that holds spices. I mean, they're everywhere, tucked away in drawers and cabinets, holding stuff. And this has, let me see if anyone's talking to me. See, Cindy likes warping. So there you go. Oh, Tracy, you know Longaberger. There we go. Yeah, scarves and placemats are what people frequently do with those larger things. But this has for making tassels. There's some beads. So, purling loom. Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. This is a pin loom. Okay? This is a different kind of weaving. They're in very small, I mean, and they come in all different kinds of sizes. When I went to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool, that's where I got this from a person who makes them by hand. And they made them all different sizes and all different shapes. They're these square ones. There were diamond shaped ones. They even made triangle shaped ones that were for making shawls. And they were like 3 feet wide. I mean, they were huge. They were to make a full-size shawl. So this is a small pin loom, but pin looms can come much, much, much larger. And I know that there is I think Addie makes one, or Scassell sells one. Here, this is Hazel Rose looms. So, and they look like it's California. Something. CA. It's hard to tell because it's like, you can almost read it better through the thing than I can with my eyeballs. And so you have to warp this. And once it's warped, then you just weave on it and you do the warp and the weft. And then you just pull it off. It makes this size of and you can do a triangle on this. You just have to warp it a specific way. And then there are actually lots of patterns you can find where it's people showing how to put little squares like this together. Like you could make a placemat by weaving a bunch of little squares and then whip stitching the square or crocheting or however you want to attach the squares, attaching the squares together. And so you could do that. They make stuffed animals with the little squares. I've even seen people making actual clothing with the little squares. It's just you take the little squares and you put them together and make bigger pieces of fabric. And then you use that to make whatever, like you could make a messenger bag, anything you want. And you can find bigger ones and smaller ones. So that's why I wanted to show you. Look at that. There's another. I just found another gauge. If any of y'all follow my personal page on Facebook, which I don't necessarily recommend because it is not my business stuff. It's just me being a dork. I said, because I was looking for, I know I have like a freaking 24 of these things and I needed to measure a needle and I couldn't find a gauge to save my life. And now I'm finding them, of course. But also in here, we've got, so Purl and Loop makes little weavy things. And what I have in here is a tiny, absolutely tiny loom that was super fun. And it even has a tiny, tiny beater. And I used to have instructions on how to use it. I do. But again, I think this is a swatching loom, so you can swatch your pattern that you're thinking about doing. And then that's just random. Oh, and here is another, that's the tiny loom. This is something I actually wove with the tiny baby loom. I don't know where my big needle is. So the thing is, to do the weaving, I know I have one somewhere. You have to essentially have a long enough needle to go almost entirely across that. So there's these really long needles you need to have. But if you want to just play, and oh, see here, Purl and Loop does this. And it's just a little, and this one, you don't cut it off the loom. You leave it on the loom, and it is considered, that's how it's like framed for finished for display. Look at all these tiny, tiny beads. What am I going to do with all these tiny, tiny beads? What was I thinking? I mean, these things are minuscule. Yeah, those are tiny beads. Those are not for knitting. Who knows what I was going to do with those? So I'm going to put these back. Oh, it just so happens to be sitting on top of the one and only thing I wove. Here it is. I wove this. That's it. I made this. It's not long enough to be a scarf. It's just a thing for me to find out if I liked weaving. And you can see that my warp was the white and the gray, and then my weft is the rose pink. And that's how it came out. So that, that is a rowan yarn that has mohair in it, and it makes my nose itch. So I will put this back. What? My duck fell over. Everything is being a little bit of a hot mess right now. Okay. There's so much stuff back in those. You'll be amazed how much is in those cabinets that you can find. Okay. You could take a weaving class in Richmond Yarn Stuff. Yes, taking a class without I'm just trying to warn y'all. Looms are expensive. And buying a loom before you're confident that it is something that you want to spend time on, I don't know that's a good choice. But some people do like doing it, so it's not like it's a horrible thing. Yes, there is a video with Tracy. There is a video with, oh my goodness, the sun is doing things. There is a video with me playing with the baby loom when I picked it up at, I think I got it at a TNNA. Oh yes, Cindy, thank you. Don't forget to give it the thumbs up. If you like enjoying the video, give it the thumbs up. And you will definitely, let YouTube know that, hey, at least some people like this. So Desiree, tying the loom waist together, what kind of knot would you use? I am not wise on the ways of knots. Believe it or not, I sailed for a long time, and I do know how to do quite a few knots, but only like in like sailing related. But and I don't know what they're called, but it's the kind, I don't know if it's a square knot. It's the kind that you do it left over right, and then you take the ends and then you do it right over left, and you pull them like against each other. So then they pull against each other. That's the only one I can think of. I would have to play with it. I'm trying to see if I have any yarn that I could quickly tie, but I don't think I do. Yeah, I do. This yarn is not attached to anything just yet. Okay, yarn. Oh, the bright, it's still bright. Okay. Need the scissors so that I can cut off a little chunk of yarn. Okay. So if you do the kind of knot where you go like this, and then you go like this, and see how that made that, and you pull it like that. So then when you pull it this way, it don't go nowhere. I will not be untying that knot. It's not coming out. So I think that's called a square knot. Let me see. Yes. Well, also known as the reef knot. Let's go to Wikipedia. That's way too much information. I think it's called a square knot, but yeah, it's just you do it one way and then the other way, and it makes a knot. Magic knot. There's different ways to do it. I'm pretty sure it's a reef knot, but that is the knot that I believe that I used when we did the magic thingamajig. When we did when we were putting them all together. That was a really fun activity. So if you have a group of knitters that you're friends with, doing that kind of thing was a lot of fun. Okay, you need to go back in there. I need to read that. Oh, this is annoying. Trying to make that no, that did not help at all. So I'm just gonna have to suck it up because it is the sun. We are facing our window space almost due west. So when the sun starts going down, there's a chunk of time out of the day that the sun is just like this. Is just beating in. Rent a loom. That's cool, Cindy. That is really cool. Yes, and at my old yarn store when I worked there, we had people would come in and you could learn how to do it on it. And obviously the idea is they're trying to sell you a loom because they're a business and that's what they want to do, but they do try to. And you can also look I know that there was a Weavers Guild in Atlanta, and I know there was a Weavers Guild in the county that Sarasota is in. I think it was called the Minnesota or Manitoba Weavers Guild or something like that. So you might want to look around and see if there's a Weavers Guild in your area. Yeah, driving with the sun due west in your face is the worst. It is. It really is one of the worst things you can do. In Atlanta, they used to call that the sunshine slowdown because there are times where you just couldn't see. And so on 285, which goes all the way around the city, there's a place where it would just slow down because everybody was going directly into the sun. It's crazy. Okay. So we got an answer on the weaving. Is there anything that I said I was going to circle back on? I'm looking back through the comments. So my birds are in the floor below me going bonkers. So if you're hearing weird little chirping sounds, that's my cockatiels. They probably hear their person, and they want their person to come pay attention to them. Am I designing anything? So the if you remember the yarn I bought, I think I showed it to y'all at one point, and I just bought a single skein and it was green, and I bought it at Maker's Mercantile. And my plan was to do, and I think I said that my plan was to do a swatch lab. Sorry, brain had to like buffer, I think. My plan was to do a swatch lab with it, but oopsie. That didn't happen. I had an idea and I decided I wanted to, and I was going to use other yarn. And then I was like, that yarn's not going to be good for that idea. So maybe I should try this other thing. And so I'm like, and I was literally, I turned around and I put my hand on the blue cart right here to move it, and it squished this skein of yarn. I was like, that could work. And so, yeah, it is now, I'm making a shawl. It's pretty much, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to have to go back down to the store, and I don't think this single skein is going to be enough to make a decent enough of a size shawl, because my goal with this is for it to be like a big cozy kind of shawl. So this is the, I got it at Maker's Mercantile. This is the Simply Natural by Haiku. And so it's 40% baby alpaca, 40% merino, 20% silk. What's the yardage on this? It's got 183 yards. So we're looking at a heavy worsted. And I'm knitting on a 9, I think. Yes, I'm knitting on a 9. So there's no way. I'm going to have to get at least one more skein to make a decent sized shawl, maybe 2 more skeins. But I wanted something, and because it's such a squishy yarn, I wanted to do something heavily textured. It's been a while since I've done anything that was, well, no, but so it looks like this so far. And then I got bored. There was a point in time where I was thinking the whole thing's just going to be this basket weave. And I got a little bored. And I thought maybe other people get a little bored. So then I just started like, hey, what would happen if I did some cables? So then I did a chunk of cables. And now I'm starting back into the basket weave. So it's just probably going to alternate between the basket weave and this cable that I just made up. I'm like, I needed to fit into this space. And I was just kind of winging it. And I don't know, maybe you can tell I was just kind of winging it. But so it kind of naturally goes into, because this is the last repeat of the basket weave. And then we got, it's just a little bit of cabling, and then just to break it up a little bit. And this cabling will not be able to like repeat. It's just like, it's like 12 rows, I think. And then the basket weave is 12 rows. So I just wanted to have fun. So yes, Cindy, that is what I am the process of knitting and designing. I don't know if anybody's going to like it other than me, but it's squishy and fun. And I just wanted something a little different. Initially I was going to do, oh man, I'm breaking stuff. I was going to use this for that basket weave. And then I decided I didn't want to do so this is a, it starts at a little point and gets big, right? This, because it's multiple colors, the problem with the side to side and then it gets big is that it's going to start off and the color is going to be a big chunk. And the longer the rows get, the shorter the chunks of color will get to the bottom where they're like striping. And if I want them to be more, if I want the stripes of color, the chunks of color to be equal to each other, it needs to be in something that isn't a shape that just increases. So I think what I might do is I don't think it's enough yarn to do, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 80 yards times 9. I am horrible at math. It's not quite. It's 720 yards. Somebody probably already put that. I don't think that's quite enough to do a nice big shawl on a bias, but I could do a scarf width, something that's narrower, like the peephole stall. And it'd be more of a scarfy thing on the bias. And if I do it like that, then the colors are going to be. And the other thing I was thinking about doing with this is beading it. And I was thinking it could be kind of cool because it's all these really, really moody colors if I used like hematite beads instead of going with colorful beads, going with a moody bead. And I was thinking it could be fun, but I need to figure that out. Oh, what did I do to my hand? Okay. Desiree, have you ever bought yarn and then did a chain ply with it because it didn't suit its original purpose? Are you talking about like doing the where you take it and like triple it, where you do the loop and you pull it through the loop and do it? I've done it once on a video. I have never done it in an actual pattern. The experimenting I have done with it is you can take fingering weight and it almost comes out as bulky weight. So, but I'd have to go back and look at it. And I've done it like to practice it to make sure I knew how to do it, but I have not designed anything like that. I've thought about it and I can't decide how it would go over. If that's what you're, and chain it, making 3 plies out of 1. Yeah. So that is, I have done it. I actually did a video on it. Hang on. Here we go. Yes. So here we go. Here is the video I did when I had found a TikTok of someone doing that type of chain plying to crochet. And then I'm like, can I do this with knitting? And that is the slightly the slightly unhinged video I made because I was super, super excited about it. It's definitely, and I've played with it several times. Oh, I think that was, this is wild. Can y'all see how red this is here? It's because I messed with that yarn with the mohair in it. And the piece of weaving that I showed you, it had mohair in it. And I had a scratch on my hand and it's making it red and my nose is getting a little bonkers. So I apologize for the that's what's going on. Okay, you were just in Iceland and purchasing sock weight yarn there. Never made socks before. Not sure if I should try knitting socks on scrap yarn to get the technique down first. So, there are so many different techniques to knitting socks that you could spend the rest of your life learning sock techniques. People who love knitting socks, it's awesome. I would just say if you want to knit a sock, go for it. You're gonna have to, there's a lot of decisions. You want toe up? Do you want cuff down? Do you want what kind of heel do you want? There's dozens of different kinds of heels. If you are going to actually turn the heel, like with a short row or a wrap and turn or whatever, when you get to the heel portion of the program, you are going to be like, I have no idea what's going on. And you just have to trust the instructions and go with it. And then after you have finished doing the heel turn, you will be like, magic. because you still will not really understand what happened. It's one of those trust the process moments. Um, the I would not necessarily recommend doing a test run on it, because if you do, then what you're going to end up having to do is making 3 socks. And really, there's enough of second sock syndrome with people who finish the first sock and not the second sock that they get frustrated. If you do a 1 sock in scrap yarn and then start the pair, the odds of you ending up with like a whole pair of socks is maybe low, depending on how much you like knitting socks. But if you're a fairly experienced knitter, or an adventurous knitter, then I would just go straight into the socks. No, I don't know. I don't think I'd do a test sock, but that's just me personally. You don't want to ruin the very nice Icelandic yarn while learning. I doubt you'll ruin yarn. I mean, if it goes horribly, horribly awry, you just frog it and you got yarn again. There's not really anything that's going to ruin about it. But if you want to knit your first pair of socks with a different yarn, and I can totally understand that. But I just don't know about doing a test sock. Yes, I think chain plying the lace, I have been playing with um the concept of it. And I think lace weight is going to take you up. If you chain ply the lace weight, I think it's going to take you probably up, because it's technically times 3. Might take you up to sport weight. You're just going to have to swatch it, is really the only way you're going to do it. Now, are you talking about chain plying it like and then knitting it, or just doing it on the fly? Because the way I did it was on the fly. Um, Proper Lady, I linked it above. The If you see where I posted a link, it's YouTube TC8IGD301N8 in the comments. Yeah, I need hydrocortisone. Go for it. You can do it. You can do it every day, girl. You can do it. And really, it's hard to mess up yarn unless you're working with like a really delicate yarn. I would not recommend just throwing caution to the wind if you have like mohair or anything like that, or if it's super fine yarns. But if sock yarn is pretty much, if it's actual sock yarn is designed to take a beating. It's going to be on your feet. So you'd have to try pretty hard to really mess it up, if it's true sock yarn. Now, everything that's labeled sock yarn is not necessarily sock yarn. And the very specific yarn that I use as an example for that is Malabrigo sock. Malabrigo sock is a very, very, very soft fingering weight yarn that has absolutely no nylon in it, and it doesn't have a particularly tight twist. It makes beautiful socks that you can wear only very reservedly. Why is my computer blinging at me? Okay, I need to make that go away. Hang on, rebooting. Whereas Malabrigo has now what they call Ultimate Sock, which has their merino plus nylon in it. And that makes a very tough yarn that is great for. So this, and again, that's something I've also made a video. All sock, well, and you can't even say that. Most sock yarn is fingering weight yarn, but not all fingering weight yarn is sock yarn. And why I say most, because there are sport weight and DK and worsted weight sock yarns. But you can say all sock weight sock yarn is fingering weight, but not all fingering weight is sock yarn. You can't use every fingering weight yarn as something to make a sock, because they don't work. Crazy Sock Lady has excellent instructions. That's good. Yeah, I'm no good with socks. Socks are not my friend. It's, everybody likes to do different things, and socks are never anything that I got I am very bad about second sock syndrome. I am very bad about not wanting to do the second sock, and I know that I could do 2 at a time or magic loop 2 at a time. I know there's any way around it. I just really don't wanna knit socks enough to do any of the shenanigans required to make it happen. Um, and that might change actually, because a lot of the reason I don't like knitting socks is because in Atlanta, in Florida, I never wore socks. Socks were not something, I mean, not even purchased socks. I spent 80% of the year wearing open shoes, sandals, things like that, because it didn't get cold. So they weren't just they weren't particularly useful for me. I might start knitting socks now because if my feet start getting cold in the near future, it might be necessary. My husband actually started making noises about needing better socks and asked me real subtly. He's like, "So where can I get the best socks?" And I'm just like, "I'm not knitting you socks. This is not going to happen." But he was so obviously dropping hints. See, there you go. You knit 4 socks at a time. I really, really can't do that. What is the toughest, best fiber to use for socks? So like the sock yarn, like that's sock yarn, like the um ironclad sock yarns, you're gonna look for something that has a 75-25 wool to nylon mixture. Um you find nylon in uh oh, darn it. I'm back. Sorry about that. My computer decided it didn't want to do things anymore. Um Hence the second sock cowl. Yes, exactly, Tracy. Um am I back? I think I'm still here. Um Nylon brings a lot of strength, but it doesn't have any stretch. It's like stiff. But your opal yarns and your really hardcore like German sock yarns have a 75-25 nylon content. So it's 75% wool, um 75% wool, 25% nylon. I don't know that I've ever seen 70-30, but it might exist. And most of the time, it's just going to say wool. And if it just says wool, that means it's a commodity wool. It means they took a whole bunch of wool from a whole bunch of sheep and just squished it all together, and it's wool. The only thing they guarantee is that it's from a sheep. Merino is a softer yarn, so it is going to be less itchy, but it's going to be also less rugged. A more common blend to see if you're not looking for like a hardcore sock yarn is 85 85 what? 85-15? Yes, 85-15. Math in my brain. 85-15 or 80-20. Like you see 80-20 and they say 85-15 and then you see 90-10. You see differing blends of wool to nylon. And the more nylon that is in the blend, the more rugged the sock is going to be, but also the more I think rugged is the best word because it's going to lose softness and delicacy and things like that. So it just depends on what you like to wear on your feet. But things like I would say the opal yarns. I'm trying to think what other ones there are. There are really cool ones that have a lot of interesting, like they self pattern and they self stripe, and there are all kinds of really cool yarns with it. But these are workhorse yarns. These are when you pick them up, you're like, that's wool. There's no question. It is if people are like, oh, that's itchy, they do not want these yarns because they are not merino, they are commodity wool. But they make fantastic socks that you can put your boots on and go hiking in. That said, all of these still, I mean, you can throw them in the washing machine, but don't really use heat on them. And I wouldn't put them in the dryer. You still want to lay them flat to dry because nylon becomes brittle when heated. So you can ruin what the nylon is bringing to the party if you expose it to too much heat. Um, West Yorkshire Spinners is an amazing sock yarn. I'm pretty sure it's 100% wool. So, and that's the thing, you can have excellent, very hard wearing 100% wool yarns, sock yarns. And what those come down to, again, is what kind of wool they are. They're not a softer wool, and the yarn structure, which means they're going to be very, very tightly plied. And when you hold them, it's going to be almost like holding cotton. Another brand that has 100% wool and it's a tightly plied, so it wears really well, is Wollmeise. Wollmeise is a German yarn, and it is beautiful yarn, but it is almost like knitting with cotton because it's been torqued down so much that you don't really have the softness of the wool anymore. But it stands up to wear and tear. Oh, what is it doing? I don't know what my computer's doing. I will have a conversation with my tech support as to why it keeps turning itself on and off. It's just losing connection. So I'm actually using my iPhone. I had stopped using my iPhone because YouTube quit recognizing my iPhone and would only let me use my webcam. And maybe I should go back to my webcam because it's doing this. Let's see what happens if I go back to my webcam. Oh, look, that is not good color-wise. And obviously it's at a different angle. Hello. It's a very different color. How wild. Yeah, all my cords are firmly plugged in and all those 9 yards. The issue is, I don't know if you saw in my last my video that wasn't posted on Sunday, it was posted on Monday. I ran into a difficulty because on Saturday we had some pretty decent rainstorms and our power went out, and the power went out as I was rendering my video. Luckily it had finished, so it was ready to go, but my computer would not come back. It turned off, and when it turned back on, the screens would come up and I would get the logo for the gaming company that built I don't remember what it is, and no key commands. It wasn't recognizing the mouse. It wasn't recognizing any key commands. It was just cranky the whole time. And and my husband could not figure out what was going on. So we had to wait for my son to get back. And since it was Saturday night, he doesn't get back until late because he goes to the arcade. So then on Sunday morning, he started looking into it, and he had to take apart my computer, and he found out that one of the drives got blown. Luckily, it was a backup drive, so it didn't cause any problems. But now, hey, Karen, I'm so glad you're here. So now, all of a sudden, when I went to set up this live, YouTube suddenly did recognize my iPhone again and recognized everything again. And so I was like, oh, I can do that because I really like using, because what it is to use the iPhone, I run it through a piece of software called OBS. And OBS allows me, as we just did, is I can go back to the phone. I can do the webcam. I can, this is how I use my Fave 5. This is so I can see how I'm going through all these things. Okay, so this, so this is set so that you can see what I'm looking at on, like if I'm making a video and I'm trying to show you what I'm looking at on my browser, but it just so happens the thing that I'm looking at on my browser is me into infinity. So that's super exciting. And you all can see yourself too, all your comments. Isn't that crazy? And then this, I don't know what that's for. So I just have all different kinds of settings. Nope, that did nothing. This is if I want to show other things. Where'd I go? There we go. And I can set it up so you can see both the webcam and my phone, which is what I use for when I have the phone mounted on a arm so that you can see my face and what I'm doing with my hands. So you've seen me do that before. So that's why I like running it. And like, if you guys had questions or if one of you wanted to see something, I can actually show you, I could show you things on, hang on, let me open up another window of Facebook. Okay, here we go. Hang on. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, that's the infinite. Let's switch this. Okay, that's what it's doing there. Window capture. I'm going to move the window capture. There we go. So there, when we were talking about the square knot, I could have switched to this so y'all could see me Googling for the square knot. And so you can see, like, there we go. See, there you go. And then you take the blue one over the red one, and then the red one, and there you go. So that's why I like running it through. I like running it through OBS because OBS allows me to do all these kinds of things. Like if we needed to go look at my Ravelry or my webpage together for some reason or another, we could totally do this. We could probably watch one of my videos together. I think I might get feedback on that though. That could be annoying. So, but back to the thing. Since my computer has been fixed after the blackout, after everything went haywire, I keep finding things that maybe aren't behaving the way they're supposed to behave. And so I need to talk to them about why the IV cam is cutting off and cutting back on, because I think it's the way that the iPhone is plugged in. And they were supposed to have, they bought a whole new plugger inner thing that was supposed to fix the problem, and it does not appear to have fixed the problem. Yes, Katya, you missed a not conversation. See, here's the problem, Knit Crochet Tiger. It didn't reboot. It didn't. It did. There was no booting. It came up, and then I got like the logo screen for the brand of my tower, and that's it. It stayed there. It never booted. It was just like, yeah, this is it. We're done. This is all we do. And it said at the bottom, like, press F2 to go into configuration or whatever. And you press F2, and it was like, nah, I don't like that. We're not doing that. And it just sat there and sat there and sat there and sat there. And it there was no, have you tried turning it off and turning it on again? It was just like, no, sir. And what my son tried to explain to me, which I don't really understand, is that it was trying to look at this one disk to start up. He thinks that it was when it got nailed, it was writing something to that disk. And when we tried to turn it back on, it keeps, what are you doing? It keeps trying to verify on that specific disk, and that disk had been fried. So it wasn't going to the other disk. It was just like, this is where it's supposed to be. This is what we're going to do. And so he had to physically remove the other disk. And then when he tried to turn it back on, it was like, oh, there's only one disk. And then it would do it. Oh, no, OBS has been actually being a giant pain in the butt. There has been a glitch, and my son did fix that. It used to be that every single time you opened up OBS, because that's what I use to record my videos, every single time I opened OBS, I had to re-download and reconfigure OBS every single time. But he fixed it, so all I have to do is when it opens up, it says, would you like to give this thing permission to do this? And I have to click yes, and that's it. So it is, yeah, but OBS is doing wonky things right now. Oh, you've been trying to that's not I don't even know the difference between a surgeon's knot. See, and that's one of the part of the conversation was that the only knot knowledge I have is from sailing because I almost never tie knots in my knitting. It's kind of funny because people will be like, "Oh, what's your favorite knot for joining yarn?" And I'm like, "I don't. I do not tie knots when I join yarn. I don't. So I don't have a favorite because I don't do that. So it's I don't the only knot I ever tie in knitting is the slip knot when I'm starting the cast on. Other than that, I don't use knots in knitting at all. Now, I'm not saying people can't. I'm not saying that I'm right. It's just that I don't. So it's kind of like when people ask about knitting socks or knitting sweaters. I'm like, can't help you. Don't know. So there's that. Yeah, the computer was not recognizing any keystrokes at all. It was against all of them. Weaver's knot is actually a sheet bend. Well, that's interesting. The primary knots that I knew for my sailing was the bowline and the square knot. Is pretty much and how to do the cleat, whatever it is that goes around the cleat. That's pretty much it. How do you join a new ball of yarn in a scarf with no wrong side? Um, Not to be a smart aleck, but the same way. Okay, the way I join in yarn. Okay, we are pretending. Okay, when I hit the point where I feel like I need to join in my yarn, I make sure I have between 6 and 8 inches like left on my old yarn. And then I take my new yarn and I pull off like a 6 to 8 inch tail. And then I tie a light single bow. I don't tie tight, it's just to hold them together. And then I start knitting with the next yarn. And that's it. And then at the end of everything, I untie that light bow and weave in the ends. That is how I join yarn. Whether it's in the middle of the work, whether it's at the edge of the work, it doesn't matter. That's how I weave in ends. So it, I don't know how to make it. Um, it just and I weave in ends using the duplicate stitch method. So I just do it in a way that it's not visible. Now, is it always like if you're saying there's no wrong side, it's probably garter or something. So it's relatively easy to hide the yarn. Um, if it's in stockinette, I'm weaving it in on the wrong side, but most of the time you can't see it particularly badly. Well, Tina, I'm not gonna like tell people not to use knots, but here I really am not pleased with what color I am in this one. I think I look much healthier in this one. The two ones are very, very different color wise. But I can switch over to the other one if we have a problem. Like that's the way that is how I put in new yarn with a good scarf, which is perfectly reversible, or a good whoopee, or I'm trying to think. I have quite a few things. Oh, hurricane season has no real wrong side, and that's it. Um, yes, the Russian join depends. You're correct. I agree with you, Katye. I think the Russian join does depend on what kind of yarn you're using. I have never had particular success with the Russian join. That's just my personal experience. I know a lot of people who really like it, but you need to be using a woolly yarn for it to work. As soon as you start getting in, I mean, non-wool yarns don't particularly care for it. Um, I'm not going to say knots are a no-no. I don't use knots because I don't trust knots, is what it comes down to. And a lot of the people I have met who want to use knots, they want to do so because they don't want to weave in much in the way of ends. They want to be able to tie a knot, cut the yarn fairly close, and not have to fuss with weaving in ends. And I don't I don't trust knots. I don't trust my knots. I don't trust any I really, really don't trust knots that I find in the yarn, like a manufacturer knot. I 100% of the time always, um and again, if I hit a manufacturer's knot in a yarn, I take the knot itself, pull it out until I have about 6 to 8 inches, tie my little loop, knit over it, and then I weave in those ends. I cut that knot out and weave in those ends at the end. Um, but it's just I don't trust knots. And if a knot comes out, your work's going to unravel. If you weave in long enough ends, even if the woven in end starts coming out, it's going to take time before it starts being a problem, and you can just weave the end back in. If a knot lets go, it can be catastrophic. Oh, yeah, if you can't knit with wool, the Russian join is not going to be particularly useful for you. It can be a hard spot in your fabric. It's an interruption in the existing texture of your fabric. Sometimes they're visible. It has been my experience, regardless of what people do, the knot always works its way to the right side. Just like if you drop a piece of toast, it's always going to fall peanut butter side down. I mean, it's just the way it's just the way things go. But hey, if you like doing knots, do knots. You do you. That is kind of my universal rule when it comes to knitting. There are so many different ways to do these things, and there's so many different reasons that people choose to do the things that they do. And I'm not going to tell you that if this is something that you feel this works best for you, that you're wrong, because you're not. If that works best for you, you know that it works best for you, and you should keep doing it. Unfortunately, I just don't have any advice on it because that has not been my experience. So I can't give you advice on knots because I don't knot. Um, I don't know if Murphy's Law, it's the peanut butter side down. That's what it does. Um, okay. This person is going to be bye-bye. So the way I am a little obsessive about how I weave in ends. I weave in duplicate stitch, and I weave in one direction and then turn and jump either up or down and then weave in the other direction. And then I take the remaining yarn and I actually run it through and actually split the plies of a few strands of yarn, almost like a Russian join, before I I before I pull it off, before I quit weaving in ends. Then I block it, and in blocking, the when it puffs up and when it does its blooming, it sort of locks that in, and only then do I cut it. So I am pretty aggressive when it comes to weaving in ends. And every once in a while, a little tiny one it'll work out, and if it does, I just cut it again because it's only a little tiny bit. I've never had anything work its way out, but I don't wear my stuff very much, so I could be proven wrong. You Sorry about that, guys. I don't know who that was, but they're gone now. I thought I had gotten rid of them with the first one, but I just deleted the message. I think I have deleted the person. Yeah. Rude people. I've seen that cat with those thing. That's pretty funny. Um, and with weaving in ends, it all depends on. I most of the time I feel that people who have issues with their ends kind of working out are people who are trying to weave in too short of ends. I do a minimum of this much, right? So it's a minimum of this length. Um, so because I know that this, huh? I always have a measurement. Oh, there it is. So this, hang on. I know this is 8 inches because I know that. So that's 6 to 8 inches is what I tell people. I do just this stretch. If you know how far this is, and it's easy. It's right there. And I know if I have that much yarn to weave in, I'm not going to have any problems. There are people who leave ends and they're like this long. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. It's gonna work its way out. You gotta weave in a substantial amount of end. Another one bites this. Beautiful. Why is this person? Oh, this person is making new. The person is now making new accounts because you see the first one was E5P and that one was V1V. So looks like we have picked up a troll, a pervert at that. I will continue to make them go away if you. I'm sorry, guys. I have no control over it. Makes me a little cranky. It's been a while. We haven't gotten one of those in a very long time. 5 to 6 inches, that'll work. Yeah, trick the day before. I don't know. It really is. It's absolutely ridiculous. But as much as it's unpleasant, I, by a very, very minuscule hair, prefer it to the individual who got on once and decided that he needed to tell me repeatedly how fat I was. So that was rude. It happens. This is what happens when you put yourself out there in the public. So does anybody else? We had some really interesting. I don't think we've ever had quite such an interesting knot discussion before. We talked about weaving and chain plying, all very exciting. Does anybody, and a little bit about sock yarn? Have I seen the much advertised steel stowing needles? I have not seen that. Sewing needles? I'm afraid that I don't really sew. And a lot of the sewing needles that I do have were the ones that I do have were actually like my grandma's. Well, that's very cool and thank you for sharing. They don't bend and they come with a needle thread and 3/3. So if anyone else here is in sewing, Harley is saying that if you've seen it, it actually is because, and it's good to hear that because a lot of times these sort of things you just don't know. It's like on the internet and there's no telling what you're going to end up getting. Um, okay. Anybody else have any knitting questions? Anybody else got an exciting Halloween costume that they're planning? And I say by that, I say, okay, what do I do with my short scraps? So I actually I kept them. I hoarded ah this is just okay, we're going back here. Um this is just this this has been the interesting stream. Thank you all so much for joining me on this one. It's absolutely just being wild today. Let me switch my screens around so I can face the webcam. That'll make it a little bit more smooth. Um, my short scraps. Um, I hoarded them for a long time. I'm sorry I'm now blue, y'all, but it's um I hoarded them for a long time and kept them. And just like recently, as in after I moved here, I donated them. So there is a store here, a business here called Recraft that is sort of like a thrift store, but just for craft supplies. So what I did is I packed up everything that I'm like, this stuff's just gotta go. I do not have space for it. And I donated it to them. And then they get it out and they sort it and they put it on their shelves. And I'm gonna go and one day I'll make a video of it, because it's all different kinds of crafts and they will take partial skeins. They will take smaller amounts. The new knittery, the yarn store that I've been going to here, they actually have a little display where they sell like balls about this big for like $1 or $2. So you might want to see if your yarn store wants to do that, and they can set for people who just need scraps, for people who just need, see if any of your knitting friends need scraps or anything like that. There are also a lot of look for any knitting pattern that calls for mini skeins. That was huge for a while. The beekeeper's quilt, everybody did, but there's a lot there now, especially with all of the Advent things. There are a lot of things that are designed for. There are a lot of things that are designed for. For mini skeins, for small amounts, and those would all work with scrap yarn. Desiree, I have no idea. You have gone outside my area of expertise. I don't know how that would work. That is something you need to ask a spinner about, because no clue. I tried to spin once. I could see, it's funny because I was a bunch of people, it was at Rhinebeck, and it was a bunch of people who brought their wheels, and someone was having me do the wheel, and I was doing it and I started getting into it, and I was like, I could see how maybe this could be soothing and might be a fun thing to do. And then I asked someone how much the wheel cost. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm not going to pay that much money to work on my carpal tunnel syndrome. I have plenty to do knitting wise. So I just didn't, it's not for me. So I just don't know. I don't know about the drum carding and stuff, but that is one of those things that if you got a drum carder, why not try? Because you're just doing scraps. I mean, if they're 100% wool, you could probably do some fun wet felting stuff with it. I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know. But yeah, I donated pretty much all of mine. Because I couldn't handle it anymore. I had too much. Okay. You had to stuff strawberry with paper towels because I had nothing else. I wish I had kept my scraps. Yes, you can definitely use it to stuff. Somebody's making a scrap ball. Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, the restore thing was super, super cool. I actually haven't physically gone inside. I only went around the back and was like, "Hey, lady, you want some garbage bags full of stuff?" And she was like, "Sure." Um, but I'm gonna go in the front door one of these days. And the one that I had to go to do the donation, they said the people who knew stuff about yarn were at the one that was further away from me. There's one up, and then there's one closer in, and I believe it's in Georgetown, and that's going to be the closer one to me. So I'm going to go check it out someday soon. Georgetown also has a place called RePC, which is my son's favorite place, and it's all electronics. He got this there for me. I am very, very picky about my keyboards. I love this keyboard. It's my favorite keyboard. It hasn't been made in like freaking decades. And I always have to get, I always have to get old ones. And then I wear the numbers off and I have to get new ones. So that's definitely thing. Okay. So scraps. I'm afraid I don't have any good things with scraps. I think you can use scraps in weaving a little bit. They're little, like little tiny. Oh, you know what they used to do a lot? They used to do the vertical, the easel looms where you're doing tapestry weaving, and they little tiny bits of yarn in that. So weaving like, and like that little tiny the loom I showed you, the pin loom, you could use it in weaving. Who knows? Okay. What time are we looking at? This has been a very no Halloween costumes for nobody. Not me. I'm not doing a Halloween costume. It's not my thing. You okay? So yesterday I went. We have a balcony, and yesterday I went and bought a little a little standing platform, bird feeder, and I got this wheel of seed that has a hole in the middle that's supposed to go on like a spike. Right, it's supposed to go on a pole and hang. But the thing is we're renting, so we don't have anywhere to hang anything from. So it's just freestanding. So it's just a little tray, and I set it in it, and then we got this stuff called bird butter. I don't know. It's these little pellets, and we put it around it and thing. And we've been waiting to see if the birds would find it because there's a lot of birds. We love little tiny birds. And this morning I'm sitting there and I'm drinking my second Diet Coke, and all of a sudden the cockatiels go absolutely bonkers. And I look over across the room, and there's a squirrel standing on the table chewing on this block of seed, and a crow is helping him out. And I walk over and I start walking towards the sliding glass door. I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, that is bird food." And so as I'm walking towards the door, the squirrel looks up at me, grabs a hold of it, and it's this big around, grabs a hold of the whole block with his teeth, jumps off the table, and is like trying to drag it. And I go and I open. I'm like, "Excuse me, sir." And then he runs off, and I have to bring it inside because he was going to steal the entire freaking block of birdseed. I'm like, we need to like zip tie it to something because that guy is totally going to steal my seeds. I was super annoyed. But later in the day, I brought those seeds inside, but left the butter stuff out there. And it's like little pelletized suet with other things in it that birds apparently really like. And a chestnut backed chickadee found it, and I got to see him, and he was super cute. So I'm excited. Hardly. I try to put out a video weekly. Usually it is on Sunday, but sometimes things, life goes in a way that I don't actually manage it. But I've been trying, and so far hang on, let's look. So far this since I moved, fine, be that way. Let's see, October 27th. Oh, no, we don't want that. I had a filter on. October 27th, October 19th, October 5th, September 30th, September 21st, September 14th. Looks like I missed one at the very beginning of September, August 24th, August 17th. So, I mean, I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. But I also have to have ideas. And I've been doing this for I have over 500 and I have 527 videos. And sometimes it's hard to come up with a new idea. I'm kind of racking my brain sometimes. Sometimes I can't find the inspiration, but I'm trying. I'm trying for y'all. That's why I always encourage y'all, ask questions, leave comments. That way, maybe I can come up with something I can make a video about, because I feel like sometimes I feel like I've done it all. Um, Overweight knitting bum, excellent. I could do overweight knitting bum as well. So here's the problem with feeding the birds. I am allergic to sunflower seeds. Every single seed mix they had at the store had sunflower seeds in it. And I'm allergic to sunflower seeds the same way that people are allergic to peanuts. It will kill me. Now, I'm not going to eat the bird seed, but it makes me a little uncomfortable to have it around sometimes. But that said, the whole block of it's sitting on my kitchen counter right now because the squirrel tried to steal it. Now, Harley, I've never released videos on Wednesdays. Like, that's funny. Thursdays. For the longest time, I released videos on Thursdays, but then I shifted to Sundays, except for the lives, because we tried the lives on Sunday, and I didn't feel like people like them as much as doing it on a Thursday. But we can always be flexible with all of this. And every once in a while I release one. Like, I released one on a Tuesday recently, but it was so that it coordinated with Miss Bab's release of the yarn that I was reviewing. So it's not a hard and fast kind of thing. Drop seeds attack hurt. Yes, animals are crazy. Uh, but I do love burbs. But our balcony is on like the second story, so I mean, we're getting birds, and we got this squirrel jerk. Um, but hopefully things are gonna be. That crow was huge though. My cockatiels were like, "It's gonna eat me." I'm like, no, it's not gonna eat you. Knitting patterns with a Halloween theme. It's a bit late for that, considering that tomorrow's Halloween. But thank you very much, Shawl Lady, for the suggestion. That would have been. And here's okay. Some of y'all have heard this before. I apologize if you've heard this before. The challenge with doing videos about, like what you had said, knitting patterns with a Halloween theme. The challenge to doing videos like that, where I'm actually highlighting someone else's patterns or multiple someone else's patterns, is that each one of those individuals holds the copyright for the photographs of their work. And while it has been become commonplace for people to make social media content that completely disregards that copyright, as a photographer, I don't do that. I have never done that. I am never going to show a picture on YouTube, on one of my videos, that I don't have express permission to use that photograph, because I'm using that photograph in a way to promote myself. Yes. Am I using it to promote that person? Yes, 100%. But I am using it to create content, and that content will benefit me. So people who justify using other people's photographs by saying, well, I'm just promoting them, they shouldn't have a problem about it. Yes, you are promoting them, but you are using their content to create content for yourself to promote yourself. So you are gaining advantage from their work without their permission, unless you've gotten permission. And the problem is, if you're trying to present great Halloween shawls or whatever, you have to get permission from every single person who you want to share a picture if you want to be on the up and up. And I definitely take that approach. Now, am I criticizing other people who do this? No, I'm not. Because frankly, I am being the stick in the mud. I am being the fuddy duddy. I am clinging to the old ways of how copyright used to be expected to be respected. People just use it willy-nilly now. And it's one of those, as long as nobody complains, everything's fine. But so trying to make a video like that for me specifically is very challenging because I would have to do it far enough ahead of time because I have done it. I have done it and I've emailed people. And if I want to highlight 5 people, I have to select at least 8 to 10 options and send emails out to all of them to ask for permission and then wait if they give me permission. And it could take a week, it could take a month for them to get back to me because it's, what am I using to contact them? Am I sending them if the only thing I can find is their Ravelry information? A lot of people don't check their Ravelry mail at all. And so it's just trying to make those kind of videos for me is a challenge. And so I know that you didn't intend that. I have one. I have one Halloween themed pattern. But yeah, it's trying to make those review or highlight kind of patterns is challenging. That said, in the next month, I will be able to make those kinds of videos for November and part of December because the Indie Designer Gift Along will be coming up. And part of the Indie Designer Gift Along is that all of the participating designers grant the other designers, if by participating, you are granting the other designers the permissions to use your pictures to promote the gift along and you. So I can do those sorts of things in the next couple months. So that is something we can definitely do. Turkey Day! I am definitely more of a process person. I do not have weekly knitting updates. Yeah, the gift along. I have been participating with and being a moderator of the gift along since the very first year. There's been no year that I haven't participated in it. The year I actually went on a cruise, I was absent for a good chunk of it, but I still participated. But I will once again be a moderator. I will be moderating the hat thread, and that's because of my time in that. The hat thread is one of the the 2 fastest moving along threads in the gift along are the hat thread and the toy thread. The toy thread didn't used to be quite so fast until the gnomes invaded. And once the gnomes invaded, it just went bonkers. So there's that. But I will be doing it again. I love the Indie Designer Gift Along. I love all the people that do it. We really try really hard to make it fun for all of the participants. And it's just mass chaos, but a lot of fun and a good way to stock up on patterns and a good way to be inspired. And I will probably be you can definitely expect some videos on that. I don't know. Maybe I'll ponder what I can do for that video Maybe like little shorter videos more frequently featuring some designers. I don't know. What would you guys think of that? As far as I know, no crochet designer has jumped on the gnome bandwagon. Sarah has. I am just floored with what she has done with the gnome thing. It went viral. It took off, and she jumped on that unicorn and is continuing to ride it into the sunset. And I could not be more pleased. I think it's amazing whenever one of these independent knitwear designers gets the recognition for their creativity, and it just makes me happy. It makes me happy to see these people successful. That's one of the reasons I do these videos. It's because I want to see all of these people successful, because so many of them work so hard, and so many of them work so hard and never get any recognition. So it's great when you see them, and I wish everybody could. Oh, northern area of Europe. That sounds cold. Scrap jar. And you know what? A scrap jar would be really cool. Just being a scrap jar. It doesn't need to be anything. It's just a scrap jar. Dude, once it's completely full, once your scrap jar is completely full, you know what you could do? Make sure it's not a nice jar. What you could do is get that clear epoxy stuff and pour it in the jar. And then once it's set, like smash the jar, and then you'll just have like a jar shaped epoxy thing. I don't know if that would work. I watched I got to be careful about those epoxy videos, because I start watching people doing stuff with that epoxy, the clear stuff, and I'm just like, and I was like, we could do more things with this. Because I was thinking once, they have those big bangle bracelets. The idea of putting yarn in the bangle bracelet and then putting the epoxy on it and pulling the silicone mold. I was thinking, new yarn bracelets. There's just so, but I'm like, the last thing I need is another hobby that I have to buy bunches of equipment for, and also concerns that the fumes from the epoxy might hurt my birds, because they're they're olfactory sensitive respiratory systems. But you could totally do the like epoxy bracelets or epoxy earrings, or yes, the clear plastic balls. They put all kinds of stuff in there, and you could totally do that with yarn scraps. That would be fun. Oh, they ate your egg noodles? That's not good. That is not good at all. I had a problem once, and that's one of the things. I made a video quite some time ago about making sure that your yarn is protected from pests. And a lot of that comes from the fact that I have pet birds. And I got a treat for them once that was seed based, and I introduced seed moths to my house. And that is a problem. That is a major problem. Okay, so we're coming up on 2 hours, and we're getting a little silly. So thank you all so much for joining me again and being here with me. I really appreciate the time and you tolerating my technical difficulties. And we'll figure out what's going on. We might just stick with the webcam from here on out. It doesn't have as good of a picture, but it's what we can do. And my freezer is like this big. It's so small. I have a tiny freezer now. I used to have a chest freezer. Now I have like a head freezer. But thank you all so much. It was lots of fun. I hope that you have a wonderfully spooky day tomorrow. And I give you permission to eat as much candy as you want. If you need it. If you don't. My husband got Nerds, and they were like these gummy nerd things that I tried, and they were so sour I almost cried. And watch for, as I said, so November we are going to have the indie designer knit along so watch for that coming up soon. It will be lots of fun. I appreciate all the questions and us talking about all kinds of fun knitting, yarning, and we didn't talk about needles quite as much as we normally do, but we really ramped it up with the weaving. That was new and different. So have fun with everything. I will see you. Hang on. I'm going to look real quick before I say these words. So the last Thursday of November is the 27th. So we'll probably do the 20th. Does that sound good to y'all? So that'll only give us, no, that's like only in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What if we did do a Sunday? What if we did like the 23rd? I don't know. What day do you think we should do? Oh, popcorn is delicious. I love popcorn. We have a glass casserole dish, like a round one that has a tight fitting lid, and we just pop popcorn in the microwave in it, and it's so good. I love it. Um, but yeah, so the last Thursday of next month is Thanksgiving. So that's not going to work. We could conceivably see maybe the 23rd, the week before, because people are going to start traveling. I might open this up for a conversation on the Facebook page, and use the community page so that we can plan ahead. Um, I know that a lot of people travel. A lot of people in the U.S. travel on that weekend. So okay, thank you all so much. I will see you soon. And as always, give me questions. Talk to me about all kinds of stuff in any context that you want. And anyone here that's the Pacific Northwest people who might want to go knitting with somebody, consider me a possibility. Okay. So thank you all so much. I'm going to click this button and we're going to say end. Bye bye.